Hey there everybody, it's Wayne D. Welcome to the website. And you're looking at Billy Lincoln. I saw Billy back in December in Arizona. And now it's July, and this is pretty cool. I want you to see these improvements that we made. This was one lesson I had with Billy. It might have been a couple hours, I can't remember. But anyway, take a look at the setup. So one of our ideas here was to center the setup, and you can see Billy's done a great job of that. Alright, so way different there. Now let's draw a couple lines and we'll watch what the swing is doing. Both of these are in slow-mo. So why is it beneficial to set up in a center position like that? Because when you take it back from a left-leaning position like this, you're going to have to move well to the right to load right and feel like you're a little bit behind the ball. If we look right there, Billy's pretty much right on top of the thing. So this was the swing that we started with. So he definitely loads up nicely, moves the head a little back to the right. You can see the arms tending to get behind him a little bit, that right arm pulling back. And since he's kind of leaning on that left leg when he drives, tends to overslide a little bit, but actually pretty good. So I think because he felt like he might be too forward here, you can see the shoulders kind of crunch up, and there are the hands coming into the ball. So there's your exit when the left wrist is on the left pant leg. You can see where the shaft is here. Now let's take a look at the new one. Again, we're going to load into the right leg. Hips are in the box. Now look at the difference in the backswing from being centered and loading a touch to the right. How much wider the arms look, and the right arm is not pulled way up and behind. So that's a big difference there. Much better width. Pretty much same amount of lateral. The grip gets right up to the ball. Still looks a little crunched up. We'll look at that in the down the line view. But watch the difference here. You can see the hands are a little further forward. There's the grip there. Now this is going to be a big difference here. Again, as the wrist gets to the side of the pants, there's the shaft. And when we look at this one, the shaft is here. So definitely better drive, hold, release. More club face control. Alright, so the centered setup with the right load gives him a lot more width, plus the feeling that he's trying to push out there as he cocks his wrists rather than getting the club up behind him. Good, so let's go to the down the line view here. Alright, so from down the line, our suggestion here was posture related more than anything. And you can see, look at the big difference in those two postures here. So when we draw the hip box here, you can see that it's pretty obvious Billy's sitting down and back in his heels a bit. You'll see a few guys that are really good set up like this and maintain most of that, but normally what happens to people is they gravitate toward the ball, and you can see the first move forward here is the right leg pushing to the right a little bit. Now remember also that he's sitting back here and he's also leaning to the left, so that right arm is pulling behind. Now, he does a pretty good job of not getting too far out from under himself, but you can see how level the pelvis is here going through the ball. And then watch the club flip through the ball and throw into the release. So here we are set up much more on the balls of the feet. I would call this more athletic. Call it out over it, or whatever you want to call it. So we might be loading down a little bit too fast here. We might want to get the club to swing out a bit more. This one went more up the plane, and this one gets a little under it. So maybe a little less flexing early. Get the upper trunk started, send the club up the plane, and then lower into it during the second part of the backswing a little more, but nicely on plane here, and you can see a much wider position there. So he's really made the thing more efficient. Look at the right arm difference here. That's being wide. That's without tucking it in. It's still got space there. So the shaft is in really good shape to start forward. Watch the lower body movement now. Because of the setup, that first move down is going to have the right leg moving much more in a rotary fashion and driving inward, as opposed to the first move here, which is to lift and go into the left. So that's one of the consequences of sitting way back at address during the swing. You can load back there a little bit, but you're probably going to move forward and jam yourself up a little bit. So here we'll watch the legs stay inside the box a lot better. So the hands are still a little bit high coming in, but they're not as high as they were. So the face is still a little tossed, but overall I think that's a big improvement in the swing. Now, the thing I would work on, let's just get to the now swing, figure out what we want to do. So I really like this backswing. So on the way down, what we got to figure out how to do really is to feel like we maintain space between the head and the shoulders, because tendency here is to keep the chin buried down into the chest right here, and then have the left shoulder more up this way, and the right arm, when it crunches up into the neck like back in here, it stays very bent. So what I would do in this position is now from here I'm going to put a hand on each side of Billy's head, here and here, And I'm not necessarily going to try to keep it up at the level that it's at. What I'm going to try to do is get his left shoulder to feel like it separates from his chin, and that the arms are going to come more downward, but not, they're going to still go out toward the ball, don't get me wrong there, but we want to try to create some room in here, because what we'd really like to do in this area is start to unbend that right arm. So when we get to here, the right forearm would look more toward the ball, and as you can see, that would put the hands here, and that would put the left arm more vertical. So that's that sidearm throwing motion from a low position. So we've got to feel like we keep the neck longer. So there's a number of different ways to try to think about this, but again, you want to feel like your head is more up and the arms come down and stretch away from the head, instead of the head and the chin crunching down into the chest there. So let's take a look at another swing. I always like to look at Knox. So watch right under Knox's chin, right in here. Right. So we can see the angle of Billy's forearm there, and the angle of Russell's forearm there is hugely different, 20 plus degrees. So we're trying to keep the feeling that as the left arm gets to parallel in the downswing, that we're creating room. We're trying to feel like the neck is still long and we're creating room underneath the chin. So right here, when the arm stays this bent, you can almost feel it when you crunch your shoulder up into your neck, up in here. The bicep right here seems to want to contract, and the arm does not unbend at all. When you try to separate and lengthen your right arm, you can straighten it out somewhat and get it down there. I think that would give the hands an easier delivery path, and then we wouldn't have to toss the face over quite so hard. So anyway, something to work on, but big improvements for Billy.